Blizzard gives their take on who they think the strongest class is, and you will definitely be surprised. We have another KFC promo after I just mentioned it in my last video, and we have all the details and what you'll receive from that. We also need to talk about some controller input issues that the developers are looking into, and I'm going to address some previous things that people just keep asking on the subreddit. What's up, World Trivia? Back in with another video, and we're checking out all things Diablo 4. Okay, so let's just get into Blizzard's take on what they think the strongest class is. Blizzard coming in with a hot take here that Druid will be the strongest class. Now, they give their reasoning for it, and we'll go into it here. And this is an interview with Associated Game Director Joe Pipora with Eurogamer. But first, they do address the concerns on the MMO aspect. Joe was essentially asked about how many times you would encounter other players or the likelihood that you would encounter others. And he said, from the design side, it is important to us that the player feels they are isolated as they wander around the world, particularly when not in cities. The likelihood of you coming across other players is fairly low. We don't allow for a very high number of players to exist in the regular regions around the world. He continued, when you're just wandering around in places like the Tundra and the Fractured Peaks, when you're doing side quests or whatever it is much less likely for you to come across other players because the caps for those regions are much lower. And we are not doing that for a technical consideration. We're doing that specifically because we want to ensure we have created a certain sensibility around the experiences as you progress through them. Which from that point I do understand, and I kind of do like that design, although I hope we do have encounters where there are more people than just 12, a world event, just something minor. I just kind of like that social ability, and they already are leaning into like Lost Ark mechanics, and I really do think if they push the limits there, that this could shape up to be a really, really good game. I thoroughly enjoyed Lost Ark. The only thing I didn't like about Lost Ark was the pay to win, and I actually do prefer Diablo's theming a lot better than Lost Ark's, and I do think this game could be the best of both worlds in that aspect. Now, there was another question here, but I already went over in my last video. Basically, when you skip the campaign, the entire world scales to you, and you can only skip the campaign once you've completed it once. Also, you can complete the campaign on World Tier 1, then swap to 2, complete your capstone dungeon, and then you can advance to World Tier 3. However, I'm going to have a leveling guide very, very close to launch or the day of, so I'll go over all that stuff, so be sure to look out for that in the morning of June 1st. Also to note, and when you're in World Tier 1 and 2, the monsters won't be higher than level 50. So if you're level 60, they still won't be any higher. They won't scale any. Now, here's the controversial take of the day, at least for Blizzard. Now, this was a separate interview with GameStar, but also with Joe Pipora. They mentioned that Druid is actually one of the strongest classes in Diablo 4. He said the Druid is actually one of our strongest classes, at least according to our internal test. However, players were not able to experience the Druid's full potential during our beta. Now, he did just say one of, so theoretically, but there is only 5 classes, so I guess, hey, they're top 5. But no, in all seriousness, the Druid, yeah, I didn't get to experience the class. I only played Necromancer and Sorcerer. However, I really do wish that I would have played a Druid, or at least maybe a Barbarian, as Necromancer just didn't have that build diversity that I wanted, like Sorcerer did, at least with all the different specs like Ice, Lightning, and Fire. Although Necromancer was still pretty fun to play, but I wish I would have tried one of those other classes because I really wanted to see like how shallow the experience was, especially compared to Sorcerer or even Necromancer. And from what I hear, it just didn't feel good. The resource generation was very rough. I think the only main concern is, and that people have especially, is that the beginning leveling experience should be quite fun. So if you're not having a good time right off the bat, it's not good, and overall people will kind of assume, okay, well, it's going to get better in endgame. However, on the other hand, you shouldn't really need to put in like 100 hours to have fun with the game. I never needed to do that with Lost Ark. However, I did also play a Sorcerer in that game as well, so maybe my class is just usually fun to play. Although I did have 6 alts, and they all felt super fun. The only one that kind of felt a little weird for me was Artillerist, and I'm just not used to like that kind of slower attack class. I normally never play that in game. So yeah, I just hope they kind of smooth out the beginning experience for Druid, and then hopefully you guys kind of have a better time. But let me know, did you guys have a good time with Druid? I don't really know. It's really up to the player to decide. But we did have that KFC promo stuff, and I actually did purchase a Double Down last time to get in that early access beta, but then I ended up just not going to pick up the sandwich. It ended up just being so far away that there was no point to go pick it up, and I'd rather just make something and play the beta. I know a ton of people did that, and yeah, I had to kind of give in. But this time around, it does look like they have something exclusive for KFC, and there was a worker that actually posted on the Reddit. He said, I work at KFC, and we got these in, order online, and the promo says you can get one of 5 exclusive items, and someone may have come across the data mine of the actual weapons. So I'll go over those 5 items that we have here. First up, we have Vessel of the 11, and it is a totem, kind of like a deer head with a bone through it. Looks kind of cool. We have a bow and arrow called Dread Pheasant Slayer. We have a pole arm, it looks to be kind of like an axe, called Hand of Gallus. Then we have Thrumming Axle, which is a staff. Really doesn't look like a staff, almost looks like an axe. And then we have Foul Reaper, which is a scythe. Now we have that control controller input issue that Blizzard is actually looking at. So they said they are aware that there's problems with the skills leap and teleport. There was a tweet here that said, sorry to bother, but do you guys give us any feedback regarding the poor range of movement skills on console and the inability to freely control them? Teleport and leap are not fun the way it is. Thank you. I'm sure Diablo 4 is going to be amazing. And we have an answer here from Joe again, who said, we heard this feedback and it's something that will be working to improve. At this point, I probably really should just test how it is on controller and see how it is. I don't have that experience anymore once I swapped to PC, and I've kind of just been mouse and keyboard for like the last 5 years. So I just don't have that controller experience anymore, and to be honest, the last time I tried to use one, I wasn't too good. But I guess just now thinking about it, if you can't control the movement, that's totally understandable, because on a mouse and keyboard, I'm able to select the specific location of where I want to teleport to, whereas on controller, you're only holding your joystick into a certain direction. So then that gives the ability for you to only teleport to that distance or that maximum distance. Let me know if that's what the problem is. And again, there's also people here finally calling for WASD movement. I really wish they would just add it. I get there's some purists out there, but I had some mouse latency issues that I talked about in like a bunch of my previous videos. Normally I use the mouse click for most of these type of games, and I just feel like the movement was a little bit more odd and clunky, and I didn't have that freedom of movement there. I don't know, maybe that was just me. Curious your guys' thoughts on it. If you play on mouse and keyboard, do you use or prefer WASD? Also got to bring up mention of the Server Slam beta, and the reason being is because there's been multiple posts now that have been kind of high upvoted on the Diablo subreddits where they're asking, can you uninstall the beta, or is the beta going to be uninstalled, or can I use the files from the beta, can I keep those and then just have to update a little bit? And no, this was tweeted out on May 14th by Adam Fletcher, who said, just a heads up, you do not need to keep your Diablo 4 Server Slam clients. The full version of the game will be wholly different, so there isn't a need to use drive space for it. So go ahead and delete that 80 gigabytes because it's quite big, and you will need to re-download the entire game, which makes sense because the game's probably going to be on a bunch of engine tweaks, and you'd probably need to re-download all those files anyways. If you've ever seen where you need to re-download the entire game, it's usually for engine tweaks, so if they make any changes inside the engine, they usually have to make you download either the entire engine or that part of the engine, and there's probably more to it there, but that's normally the reason, or usually the reason why they're so large in download size for updates. Also want to make a quick note here that if you are on Xbox, it looks like pre-orders are going through now, so you might get charged sometime soon. Just wanted to let you guys know, so in case you guys are pre-ordering Diablo or already pre-ordered it, then you will be getting charged on Xbox, it looks like, here sometime soon. But that is about cover for today's video, and if you like, and subscribe, and until the next one, deuces.